This is an Irish independent podcast.
This is being recorded out there, so maybe I should stop talking.
On the speaker.
What else do you want to say about your bosses?
Oh God, they're coming in already. You're gone.
Well, here we are again for another Bits and Bobs, 2 in a row. Conán is back with us. Conán, hello.
Hello, Joe.
Disappointed to say no email in yet from Protestant Dave, but we'll get there.
Typical. They wouldn't be listening to an Irish show, you see.
Someone's going to text him and say, "Oi, Protestant Dave,
Yeah.
they're talking about you."
And John's asking, should we be watching Northern Ireland? And Protestant Dave couldn't give a damn about this show that's happening down in Dublin.
Maybe he's writing a considered email, who knows? We live in hope, Protestant Dave, if you're out there. What was Conán like to live with? Will Slattery joins us once again. Hello.
Hi Joe, how are things?
Fresh from a left wing, which is in people's feeds as we speak. Eddie O'Sullivan was on yesterday, and at one point I did say to him, maybe 15 minutes in, because I just sensed the tone of all my questions, and I just said, can I just say, by the way, we're just moaning. The team is really good. They're a bit of a stagnation. It's the natural kind of ebb and flow of a great team. They'll stagnate, they'll come again. We're just moaning.
Well, I'm glad you realised after 15 minutes, because it was 40 minutes when I made the same point. I was like, I'm conscious that Ireland won the game, and we haven't mentioned a single positive, but I guess, yeah, as you say, that's just where we are at the moment.
I'm sick of me. I'm sick of us. The media, just so annoying about Ireland right now.
I personally prefer doing the podcast as someone who hosts it when the team isn't doing as well. I feel like there's more to sink the teeth into. Nothing about the team itself. Like, obviously, if Ireland win, it's a great day for the country. But just as someone who's doing the podcast, there's more. It's more edge to it. There's more spice.
Slattery, I prefer when Ireland lose.
Not just Ireland, all the Irish teams.
Yeah, I do know what you mean. I mean, winning, you just go, and he was good, wasn't he? Yeah, he was good. And what about that? That was good. Yeah, that was good. But when it's a loss, whew.
That's why Friday was almost the perfect outcome. They won, but there was enough there that you could almost treat it like a loss.
Okay.
Everyone won.
You're like, it's like man in your position doesn't play well. Team wins. Perfect. Lots of things going on. So you might have seen it's all over not the papers just yet, but certainly all over online. Rafael Nadal officially gone. He was playing his last ever Davis Cup match in Malaga in Spain. They lost 2-1 to the Netherlands in the quarterfinals, and so that's him done. And he lost in straight sets. Wasn't a good performance. All week there was a will he won't he play singles. He hadn't played since the Olympics, and he managed to kind of cobble himself together to do it. He said in some ways it's good. If that was my last match, I lost my first ever match in the Davis Cup, and now I've lost my last one. So we closed the circle. And it was, full of all the regalia that you might imagine. So he was playing some poor chap called Van der Zandschulp, who is the world number 80, like still extraordinary, but I've never heard of him. And so the guy doing the intros on the court decided to read out everybody's achievements. So for Van der Zandschulp, it was short. And then for Nadal's introduction, he read it very slowly. The Guardian say it was like a PowerPoint presentation. And after each one of his major titles, 22 Grand Slams, 2 Olympics, 5 Davis Cups were read out, the crowd would go, "Aye!" So it went on for several minutes for the announcer as Van der Zandschulp, in fairness, stood there and understood. And then afterwards, there were tears. He spoke to the crowd in Spanish. There were video tributes from Roger Federer, Novak Djokovic, Serena Williams, Andy Murray, and more besides. The sporting world, very much Nike included, ambassadors and sponsored athletes have all come out on social media the last few days. We had a mail in from Shane. The subject line was too good to ignore. Lack of hatred was his subject line. So, hi lads, why don't Roger Federer and Rafa Nadal hate each other? Seriously. Ruthless, sociopathic, type A personality types surely dominate in an individual sport like tennis. This everyone's a great guy routine is driving me and no doubt Roy Keane nuts. Roger, Rafa has literally robbed you of 12 to 15 more Grand Slams. So quit the Stepford Wives routine. Hate the man. Part of me doesn't buy it. I think it's all fakery. The sponsors love it. The quote-unquote fans love it. And then if it's not fake, it's too saccharine to like. We've just had the greatest rivalries in the history of tennis, and these, quote, nice guys have wasted a golden opportunity to make tennis the most talked about sport in the world. Regards, Shane. I never agree with them.
Yeah. the subheading should be the case for Nick Kyrgios. I mean, the hero that we didn't expect, that we'd all love. And Nick Kyrgios with no problem hating on these guys. But I remember the 2008 Wimbledon final, the classic. We mentioned it before, Federer and Nadal. But the year after, I think Federer was playing Andy Roddick. He's so patronising afterwards. He said, I know how you feel, Andy. I've been there. And Roddick just said, you won like 20 of them. And this, like the venom coming from him, I really felt it. And he's probably my all-time favourite tennis player now because of that.
What a wasted opportunity this has been. We could have had the greatest 20 years of hatred.
I think, because I specifically was thinking of the two lads when you mentioned this was going to be brought up, because you mentioned that great game in 2008. 2009 Australian Open final, Nadal wins in a 5-setter again. Federer's in tears. All of a sudden, the rivalry is really getting in his head. Then in the French Open, Nadal gets upset by Soderling. Federer wins his only French Open to get the career Grand Slam, which really ticked that box. So I feel like if Nadal doesn't get knocked out and wins that French Open, Federer never gets the career Grand Slam, I think the relationship is very, very different. I don't think he can be as like magnanimous in retirement. I think, the Grand Slam battles they had in maybe the last 4 or 5 years, maybe in Australian Open final, take on a different tone. I think getting that one against the head when Nadal got knocked out early, I think just allowed Federer to have his legacy secure. Because at that point, there was talk that he might never win another one if Nadal was standing in his way. So having Nadal kind of out of the picture to finally get the career Grand Slam, I think it's a reason why the rivalry, a little bit of the sting was taken out. Because the previous time they'd met, as I said, Federer was in tears. Yeah. Kind of a bit of an embarrassing reaction at the time.
Like on the face of it, you have to say they're all very evolved people and deserving of our admiration for that. But on a base level, I think, spare me the everyone's a winner routine.
It's because it's not sincere. And we know it's not.
Do you not think it's not sincere?
I don't either.
No.
You think they do hate each other?
Oh my God.
Maybe Djokovic.
They can't fake those tears when the other is retiring though. Like when Federer was retiring, Nadal was, I thought, genuinely upset. Like it was a lovely thing. In that moment I thought, oh God, this is beautiful.
But like Nicky Lauda and James Hunt, you grow to appreciate them back, once it's finished, once all said and done.
But they were good right the way through, really.
Were they though?
You don't think so?
I don't know.
Okay.
I guess they've all won so much and everyone ticked every career box set. They can all maybe appreciate how good it was, except Andy Murray maybe has a little bit of more of a grudge than the other. But the top three, they all won, almost 20 Grand Slams each.
We're all going to win some here.
Except you.
Maybe, and maybe they just thought, again, they're to be admired. It's just it was less entertaining. They're to be admired. And maybe on some level they realised, my God, that was an epic match we just played. We're sort of, by dint of these 2008-esque epics, we're writing ourselves into tennis history. So actually, you're good for me, I'm good for you. We're all winning enough that no one's feeling too scornful of the other.
Yeah.
But the other eras have so many characters, like Jimmy Connors, like everyone hated. Like, even Sampras and Agassi had a rivalry, like, Becker and Edberg. Like, I think people look back on the rivalries as much as the great matches, and there's been much more great matches between the big three. But I wonder what we'll think in 20 years' time. Will we just remember that they individually hoovered up all the Grand Slams, or how we'll look at the rivalries? Because I agree with you. Like, I much prefer Nadal and Federer's rivalry 08-09 when it was actually oh God, Federer might not win another Grand Slam, etc., rather than what it ultimately became.
Yeah. In the never-ending James McLean drama, just to mention, the EFL, it now turns out, have written to every club in League One and said that James McLean has a special dispensation to exit the pitch if he's substituted via the nearest exit. So ordinarily, if you're substituted, you have to save time wasting, you have to walk off the pitch at the nearest point to the sideline or end line, and then if needs be, that means you have to walk around the entire pitch back to the subs bench. That's kind of how it's done. And so they've decided for McLean this is no longer required. Back in September at Birmingham, I didn't realise this, he had a cup of hot Bovril thrown at him.
He caught it. Or he caught was there a beer thrown at him then as well? And he caught that.
Right.
And he said, cheers.
Did he?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it turns out the EFL have kind of thought, well, this is just unsustainable situation. So they have written to every club and said McLean can now leave straight down the tunnel or walk straight to the subs bench if needs be. And they say this is because the chanting has become racially or religiously motivated. Therefore, it is classed as a hate crime. Missiles have been thrown. And so that's the deal. Now, McLean was talking today to TalkSport, and interestingly, he said this is not something we've been asking for or requested. So he was as shocked as anyone to see it. But that's happening in James McLean's world. Leo Cullen has agreed a new 2-year contract extension to remain as Leinster rugby head coach until the end of the 26-27 season. So that will be 12 years and counting. He often only signs a 1-year rolling contract, so he's gone in for the 2. What is Leo Cullen's standing, do we think, in the great coaches of the professional era in Irish rugby?
I would say it's not, because when Joe Schmidt was going to leave, or will he leave, won't he leave, and they announced Andy Farrell, that was at the end of the 2018 autumn series. And at that time, there was talk of maybe a Cullen Lancaster package to Ireland was an attractive option. It would have been more attractive at the time than Andy Farrell going in, considering the team was on a kind of a downturn come 2019. But since then, obviously, Andy Farrell's been very secure. And after losing 3 Champions Cup finals in a row, I don't think anyone is now sitting here saying Leo Cullen is in the running to be the next Ireland coach. I don't think anyone would make that argument now. What's his standing? I suppose ultimately the way it's structured there is Stuart Lancaster and now Jack Nienaber serve as the de facto head coach on the training pitch, and Leo Cullen oversees it all. So he doesn't get a huge amount of credit. At the same time, they haven't won anything in 3 years. So it's hard to make an argument that he should be in the running or he is one of the great coaches they've had, because with the resources and the team that Leinster have had, the idea that they've gone 3 years without winning a trophy is ridiculous. And they haven't won a Champions Cup in 6 years. It's ridiculous. So he's probably where he ought to be in terms of what people think of him.
There's a degree of damned if he does or doesn't. So at the moment, I tend to agree with you. You couldn't, looking at recent history and Leinster's failings, and by Leinster standards, they are failings. And you couldn't say, God, this guy has to be in the conversation for next Irish coach. That's fair enough. But then even back around 18, when they won that Champions Cup in Bilbao and, the 19 final against Saracens, it was still a very good innings. But even then, I didn't really feel he was in the conversation for next Irish coach. I felt it was my God, Stuart Lancaster's doing a hell of a job here. So even when Cullen, in a kind of broad chat about next Irish coach, was mentioned, almost the follow-up was, well, who's his coach though?
Well, with Lancaster. So it was a package deal. No one would have wanted Lancaster as the head coach either, because then he would have been torn away from what he was doing at the time, which was the on-pitch work. It's very much a package deal, because he's not, like when he was there the year without Stuart Lancaster, it was a disaster. And Johnny Sexton's book, for anyone who's read it, is pretty damning about how bad it was when he got back, but also really make pains to point out how Lancaster really drove everything, all the success they had. And he had some very pretty serious conversations with Leo Cullen about whether Sexton would even stay at Leinster because they were butting heads so much. So Johnny Sexton didn't paint what he was doing at that stage very strongly. So it very much was billed back then as a package deal. And now it's funny, 12, he's been there for 10 seasons at the end of this year. It's staggering in Irish rugby for a coach to be there that long. And to repeat myself, the fact that they haven't won a Champions Cup in 6 seasons with the team they have is ridiculous. They've been probably the favourite to win every single year. Actually, they're the second in the betting this time, bud. And do I blame him? I think his team selections the last 2 seasons have directly contributed to them not winning anything. Up to then, I would have looked at it and said the players really didn't deliver in a lot of those big games. They didn't turn up. Whereas, resting 15 players for a semi-final against Munster and then Jack Crowley dropping a goal. Last year, keeping Josh van der Fleer and James Ryan in reserve, that was very much a Nienaber kind of selection. That didn't really work in the end. I didn't think. They also rested a lot of players the week before against Ulster, which they lost, which meant they had to go to South Africa. So I would point the finger at him, the out-half situation, which we don't need to go into now, but that's been a disaster. So I think the last few seasons definitely is. But interestingly, that the statement that Shane Nolan, the Leinster CEO, released today gave a little bit of an insight into his thinking. He said, not leaving aside the fact they've lost 3 finals, that was the first thing he said, but Leinster have been the most consistent team in Europe, competing every year for trophies. He's capped over 100 players, the vast majority of which are homegrown, who now represent Ireland. So it's not as if he's done a terrible job. They have been very consistent. So I can see why they want to keep that stability at a time when they're redeveloping the RDS. They want to have more season ticket holders there. They want to kind of maintain the status quo to a degree as well, while just getting over the line as well, because Leinster broadly, filling Croke Park is going very well. But the top end, the top line, the bottom line in terms of silverware is obviously the missing piece, and I do point the finger at him to a degree. Okay.
Pep is staying on for another year as well, we should mention. So he's going to end up doing 10 years at City, 2016 to 26, which is more than Barcelona and Bayern stints combined. So even though he's so quintessentially Barcelona, kind of the bulk of Pep Guardiola's managerial career is Man City, which just feels a little bit odd, I suppose. So I don't really like Pep week to week in interviews. The passive aggressive demeanour, terrible loser. kind of hypocrisy to beat the band on his political stances here, there, and everywhere. And yet, I have to say, I saw the news and I thought, oh, good. I don't want to lose him. You almost have to lose him to realise, God, I want him around though, because the football City play, and he's just such a big character nonetheless. So I'm kind of like, oh, good. It made me, so I don't think about it too much, but it made me realise I'll actually miss Pep when he's gone, even though I don't know if I necessarily have warmed to him over the years massively. Do we like Pep? Do you want Pep to stay? Do you want part of your Premier League life?
You like to not like Pep?
I don't even. It's not as strong as I actively don't like him. I kind of look at him and think, just sometimes he does interviews that leave me a bit cold. But I love the football. I love the innovation. I love that he starts putting fullbacks into midfield. And now, honest to God, if you're a Premier League team and your fullback's not in midfield, what are you at? You know, like he is just making the game a trillion times more interesting to watch week to week. So that's what I would miss. The sense that I'm watching the most cutting edge football in the world week to week in the Premier League, and really 80 to 90% of all the ideas are coming from him first. So that's that. I'd miss that infusion of genius.
So I agree with that. He's an innovator. He's obviously an amazing coach.
Will just made a face like I farted, so we'll come to that in a moment.
Well, I'm probably siding with Will a little bit because I actually hate the football that they play. Okay. I think it's terrible. I think it's not interesting. They're so dominant. I think it's such a defensive way of playing, and he's just able to do it with the best players in the world. Like 20 of them, throw them all in, and it all requires every one of them having a ridiculous first touch. They're able to get out of any situation.
Do you not enjoy watching a ridiculous first touch?
No, I think Man City play like the way GA teams are now. Like we've been moaning, like they're just keeping the ball away from you and they pen you in.
Not since Haaland arrived. He's changed it up.
Haaland adds a bit of chaos, but he reluctantly did that as well. You know, I actually think Pep is at heart boring, and I want to take away that he is obviously such a great innovator. What he does is obviously so effective, and he's a brilliant coach, but it's not. I don't think it's nice to watch. I don't actually think it's a nice style of football to watch, and I think it makes the Premier League so uninteresting as well because it's just a default champion the whole time.
We almost could not disagree more, could we?
Well, I kind of agree with both of you. I do agree with Joe's points about his innovation and what he's done. And like, you know, the first few teams he won with, a lot of those guys were there already, and the way he improved them was very impressive. But the default champion piece is just how I'm looking at it. Like they've won 4 leagues in a row. Even at this stage, ordinarily you might say, oh, they're having a wobble, but we've seen this before. I just would like him to leave purely to maybe inject some new jeopardy back into the league.
They've been great title races, a lot of them. Like there was a Liverpool City one that was off the charts good. Last year coming from behind to catch Arsenal. This year,
all of those title races, they basically won every game for the last 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
And the games themselves actually didn't have great jeopardy, like a lot of the City games in particular.
They won them quite well, yeah. Look, there was a degree of 10 games to go, where will Arsenal or Man City drop a point? That was that season.
Like that's not...
I thought it was great.
Is that exciting?
Well, obviously the League of Ireland season this year is your kind of quintessential chaos. Like
that's probably the
that's the standard bearer.
Yeah. But I thought they were being pushed enough that it made it dramatic. That's interesting that you're okay.
Yeah, and was he, like, did anyone ever think he was going to leave? Like, I feel like there's all like this kite flying about him leaving. Where would he go?
I don't know. Like back to Barcelona maybe? But at some stage.
I just think it's set up there for him to be so dominant as well. He's obviously the key driver. I'd also be interested to see how City would do without him. Like, how good would they still be? Like the Mancini and Pellegrini years were pretty chaotic. Like they won a league under each, but it's not as if they were steamrolling everyone.
No.
Like now that was a good title race with Liverpool and City. That's the kind of title race where I would think it was 86 and 84 points, not 96 and 94 points. Which doesn't seem like a lot, but over the course of a season means that the 2 title contenders are winning, like 80% of their matches or more. So,
I think as well, he's just that kind of big personality. Like Arne Slot is perfectly likable, but he's not your guy.
I agree with that. Yeah,
so we're just going to swap out Guardiola for some nameless continental type who's 42. I know what clothes he wears already, and I just,
I like what I like. But by the way, like you said about Pep being a bad loser, he's a worse winner as well, because either he's so sarcastic in his interviews afterwards.
The sarcasm is hard.
Or it's just over the top praise. After they beat Southampton, the League Cup the other day, he was talking about, I want to learn. I want to really learn from that manager.
I thought he meant that.
Well, he did because he lost the next 4 games.
He's so insincere. I really don't like the guy personally. I actually, that's one of the reasons I would have been happy if he had left as well.
Okay, but at least he makes you feel something.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, whoever manager make you feel? I can't even think half of them at this stage.
Well, Amorim was supposed to be the next guy coming in for him.
If I was to push you to name every single Premier League manager quick, How well do you think you'd do?
I would do 17, then I would start going,
Yeah.
I get all
what's
20.
the name of the Brighton?
You get all 20?
Yeah.
Do you want to put it to the test, or is that bad? Would
I
that
can
be,
pick a team and I'll see if I can answer. I don't know.
that could be bad podcasting.
We'll be very bad podcasting.
Let's do it at the end.
Yeah.
And we'll watch our retention rate. Woo! So, some emails. We will go with Owen O'Quillanon. O'Quillanon. Do you know what the anglicised version of O'Quillanon is?
Probably is none. It's just an Irish name.
Cullen.
Have I asked? Is that it? I shouldn't have asked. He says, I'd like to add to the chorus of praise for the new podcast. Really enjoying it. Thanks very much, Owen. One thing I've noticed in relation to Republic of Ireland coverage, however, is how the manager is referred to. His name is Hamer Hallgrimsson, but more often than not, he's referred to casually as Hamer by everyone. I'm wondering if this is a policy decision, whether there was a 3-line whip from above dictating that his name is simply too hard to pronounce. As someone with a long surname, I'd have some understanding if that's the case. Anyway, I just wanted to get that query off my chest. Keep up the good work. Owen O'Quillanon. Yeah, it's just sheer easiness, Owen. And if you were the Irish manager, we wouldn't be saying Owen O'Quillanon every time either, I'm afraid. It'd just be, we'd have to come up with a nickname. It's just, I'm not saying Hamer Hallgrimsson every time. So there was no edict, but everyone just falls into it because it's just easy. And Hamer, if you were the Irish manager, Owen, your name's not distinctive enough. You know, you couldn't be like Owen said after the game. So would you have to be like O'Quillanon said?
Oh yeah, because usually it sounds very chummy if you're calling a man. Like
There's a bit of that.
It would
yeah.
be, you'd be wrong to do that. Like if the host was calling like Stephen Kenny, Stephen this, Stephen that, but for some reason it just seemed to be a media wide like consciousness, like just to do it.
It works though.
Yeah,
Hamer.
Hallgrimsson. It's not that difficult.
No, it's not that difficult to pronounce unless we're all mispronouncing it. But no, I look, it's tough to have a long surname. Owen O'Quillanon.
I remember Andre Villas-Boas took over at Chelsea, and I was reading the paper one time, and in brackets it said AVB, as he will invariably be known. Yeah. And I was like, will he be? But they've just put out that diktat.
The next mail I was going to touch on was virtue signalling was in the subject line. Again, I saw that. I thought, I kind of have to click on that. It's not going to be good.
I got curiosity.
It's not going to be good, but I'm going to click in. And then it was from Mitch, and much like Brian Peters, he's playing chess to my checkers. So he said, Dear Joe and Gang, hopefully that provocative subject title caught your attention, but don't worry, I'm not here to get all red pill, do your own research MAGA on you guys. I did, however, and I should say Mitch sent this in before we talked a bit about Robbie Keane yesterday, who'd been speaking himself on the Rio Ferdinand podcast. But I thought I'd read it nonetheless, because obviously Robbie's had a bit of criticism on this channel, so in the interest of balance and fairness. And I think Mitch writes a very fair email. So just to read it out. I did, however, want to chime in about the Robbie Keane Israel chat you guys had last week on the show. That was me and Aidan Fitzmaurice. I, like most people, am beyond horrified and disgusted by the events in Gaza and the Middle East over the last year or so. I do think, though, we tend to hold our sports people to a much higher standard than our actual politicians and other business people. For much of this year, our government was woefully inactive on the issue, likely out of fear of offending the American golden goose. And even though more latterly there have been a couple of stronger statements and minor diplomatic moves, still no major action has been taken. People are very quick to want to cancel Robbie Keane, yet he's not a politician and he'd never claimed to be. And yet our own government can't stand up to the Yanks and enact a proper BDS approach to Israel. BDS being boycott, divestment, sanctions. And don't get me started on the whole Qatar World Cup, Saudi, Abu Dhabi, Man City, Newcastle, human rights, faux outrage. The amount of gurning we've done collectively about Man City and Qatar and human rights over the years has not aged well when we reflect on the genocide being overseen and sponsored by our biggest ally, the USA. So at the end of the day, maybe we are a bunch of virtue signalers. Putin would definitely say so. And as much as I would never take a job in Israel, I don't think we've been fair to Robbie Keane. Sorry about the rant. I rate the chance of this getting read out on the show at less than 1%. Regards, Mitch from Fermanagh, who also played me with the last line. Yeah, I was like, well, I fucking will then.
Yeah. See what you think of this, Mitch.
So Just wanted to read that out. We talked a lot about Keane yesterday, so I don't think we'll labour the point.
I knew he's from the north when you read out the word Gurnan. I was like, geez, is that a Republic of Ireland word as well? Or it definitely sounds like a northern word to me.
Gurning. Yeah. It's a good word. Yeah. So what's that like whinging and like internal agonising?
Sounds like what it is, isn't it?
Gurning. Yeah, it's a good word. Hi, Joan team. Really enjoying the first weeks of the podcast. Well done on hitting the ground running. Well, if only you'd seen behind the scenes, John. Have you considered a monthly sports media spot? I reckon that could go down well. I know you often get into media discussions anyway, but a dedicated show on all things sports media could go down well. The new Match of the Day presenter, Netflix dipping into sports, NBA TV rights, the Inside the NBA team moving to ESPN, NBC would be just some of the latest hot topics. But there's likely enough content for a month alone, for a once a month slot alone in GAA Go. Anyway, keep up the good work. Enjoying all the podcasts. Thanks, John. I don't think so. We just talk about it naturally anyway. Nobody loves talking about the media and sport more than me. I do it too much. But I don't know. I think you get locked into slots and then it's quiet. You end up doing a bad slot. I think we'll just trundle along and do it when the need arises, is my sense. Yeah. I also find it's tricky to do media slots when, people want you to review RTE the Sunday game, and people involved. It's too small a world to be doing it. I'm not saying I'm holding back on the Sunday game here and have things to say. Yeah. Well, what are you going to do? Let's review the Virgin rugby coverage.
Yeah, gladly.
It's bloody excellent.
Why it's better than the Virgin football coverage? You could go into that then as well.
So I don't know about a dedicated slot, but geez, we'll talk about the media non-stop.
I love talking about it. I love listening to shows like that as well. So I do agree. I'm always concerned that are we just self-indulging ourselves?
I do one journalists talking about media. Yeah,
I don't think so. That's a fair point. Is it self-indulgent? I actually do think a lot of listeners do like hearing behind the scenes or behind the curtain about kind of stuff like that. Personally.
Yeah. How do we do what we do?
Yeah, exactly.
Don't call us heroes.
It's tough.
Let's give John a little sprinkling of some media talk. Give me you get three choices each of all time. Minimum one from the present, but you can pick all three from the present if you're suitably impressed. Give me your top three pundits, any sport, any era, and let's see what this tells us about you as people.
Wow.
Do you want to trade one for one, or do you want to answer your three?
You're getting involved in this as well?
No, I haven't picked.
Oh, what?
No, I'm not.
Come on.
No, I'm just sitting here judging.
You even posed the rules?
Yeah. Do you want to trade, or do you want to give us do you have a top three? Have you ranked them?
It's very hard.
Oh, here we go.
I'll just give you my three, and I'll give you why it's hard as well, because it's not that I love punditry and I love media, but I find it hard to find somebody who I will just stick with, that person is so consistent in my life. The only person who does that for me is a top pundit. It's Wayne Mardle, the darts pundit.
Right.
He is just a global treasure, and he's a brilliant co-commentator, so insightful, so personable.
Wayne Mardle. I did not think that's where you were going to go with the first one. Wayne Mardle. He's not even the best pundit on the darts coverage on Sky. Wayne Mardle.
What is it you like about Wayne?
I think he's so funny. He's personable. He's got a great his voice can go up and down. He's a great co-commentator. He's so insightful. He'll break darts down for. I come in every December for the darts.
Yeah, so would I. I come in every December, but I can't say someone's jumped off the screen.
Wayne Mardle hasn't. I can't speak. You saying that?
No, I watch it every Christmas, and I've never gone, whoa, who's this guy?
Oh my God, I do that every Christmas.
What does he sound like?
I can't speak. That iconic co-commentary is Wayne Mardle doing that. Come on, bully boy. Come on.
One man misses, does the other man get? I've never seen the like. Come on, bully boy. Yes, double 12. Yeah. That is the most amazing Lebanese you will ever see in your life. I can't speak.
I remember remember that clip. No, that was good. Sorry. He lost his voice then the next night.
Yeah, and he had to be pulled out and replaced. Just so likeable as well, you know.
Okay, so Wayne Mardle, unexpected entry.
Wayne Mardle.
I'm so sorry, I didn't think we were going to talk about Wayne Mardle that long.
My one is going to seem very bog standard and obvious.
That's okay.
Oh, sorry, you want to do your 3?
He wants his 3.
Sorry, you want your 3.
Well, I think give him the chance to recover.
Yeah.
It's not going to get much better. So historical is Joe Brawley, 2000 to 2015, because
sold.
Yeah, I think Joe Brawley was amazing. He was the agenda setter. He was actually so insightful and analytical when he wanted to be, and
also outrageously unfair and controversial at times as well. So but that's okay.
Yeah. And even after 2015, it sounds like I'm being unfair there, but he just started to grate on me a bit much, and I would send out tweets saying Joe Brawley this, Joe Brawley that. Then RT got rid of him, and I was like, I didn't want you to get rid of him. I liked complaining about him, but it probably just got a bit too.
They've never recovered from.
I was about to say that exact phrase. I don't think they've recovered.
They haven't. No, he made good TV.
Great TV.
Yeah.
You need someone in a panel to have that energy and to have that not giving a shit and just to throw something out there. Without that, it just becomes so bland and tedious to me. I wouldn't watch the coverage in RTÉ. I would literally just turn on for the match. I wouldn't even bother listening to what they're saying beforehand. I just don't find it that engaging.
Yeah. And he probably stopped letting the game come to him. Do you know, he went chasing those moments. And
he did become very famous.
Yeah.
The Kieran Donaghy thing, and he had a lot of fun with it. But before that, he was just a pundit, really. Maybe the Sean Kavanagh thing got him a little bit notoriety. But after that, he became more famous than 80% of the players, probably.
Yeah. Well, this is
I'm not joking.
No.
It's kind of he became the character Joe Brawley almost after that, and I feel like he was maybe leaning into that a bit, which I don't blame him. It was a good character.
Yeah.
But.
Who's playing today? Joe Brawley. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I've got Ali McCoist for football, but I find that hard.
Ali McCoist is in your top 3. That's the worst top 3 I've ever seen.
Wayne Mardle, Ali McCoist.
That is a joke.
It's not great when you read it.
That's more like a dream dinner party guest list that will be enjoyable than an actual.
That is shocking.
But who's your favourite football pundit?
All I know is if we ever start a media slot, you're just not involved.
It is bad when you say it to me back and I hear it. But
the top 3 pundits in history.
Wayne Mardle was your best pundit.
He was the one I was sure of.
In the history of sport.
The other team, not too sure.
The Ali McCoist thing's a bit overdone, isn't it?
I think.
He's so enthusiastic.
Yeah, it's maybe because the other pundits are giving you a chance to dislike something about them, and they're so overexposed.
So you just his likability you like,
and he likes the game. He's just so pure about it. You know, everybody else. I love Jamie Carragher. I do. I think it was between him and Neville. I think Carragher's streets ahead, but he's too aware now. You'd often hear Jamie Carragher say something like, "That's the clip. That's the meme." Just constantly. It's like
they say you don't like in others what you don't like about yourself.
Yeah,
so
that's exactly what I'm doing right now. Yeah. Except the Wayne Mardle thing is out. We're cutting that from the whole show.
Okay. So Mardle, Brawley, McCoy. If you'd given me 1,000 guesses, I wouldn't have got there. Will, time to save the day.
Mine are very traditional.
That's okay.
So we're going very back to the mainstream.
But sorry, that's sometimes the obvious answer is the correct answer.
The first one is the most obvious answer because he was just Eamon Dunphy was just hilarious. Did I agree with what he was saying?
That's
no. Did I think he was unbelievably incisive? No. But he was just unbelievably enjoyable to watch. Even him saying. Can you swear in this podcast? I won't. When Neymar, that time when he was on, that was unbelievably hilarious. Even the back end of his career when it was Man City and Pellegrini Man City, or Mancini and Pellegrini Man City, he had a hatred for the overhyped, overpaid Man City that would bring out some hilarious one-liners. And talk about the panel not recovering. I do really think, and I know he was a little bit older maybe as well, but he just produced some unbelievable gems that I always found hilarious. So he would be maybe not my number 1. I'm doing it in no particular order, but
I did.
It's a good start.
On the assumption we were talking the best, I thought, well, he has to feature. Yeah. So I said to the lads outside, please grab this clip.
This is a man who actually goes and sees sick children in hospital. This is a family man with 5 children who's a credit to his country and to his family. And I'm not going to listen to him being called a thug by you. I don't want to hear what...
Hang on a second, no, don't misquote me. I said that was written.
Why are you introducing here to this discussion?
Because I'm saying there's an alternative view.
And whose view is it?
That's the view that was...
Whose view is it?
In the column on the Sunday Times.
Who's the column? By who?
It's on the back page of the Sunday Times last Sunday. Look at it.
And who wrote it?
I can't remember his name.
I'll tell you who wrote it.
Who?
I can remember his name. Rod Little. He's the guy
the guy
who ran away and left his wife for a young one.
Come on, no, that's out of order, that kind of stuff. No, it's not. You started it. I didn't. You don't even know who wrote it. I know who wrote it.
You started it. As Rod Little, fond of saying, still with the young one. The great thing about Dunphy as well, there are so many great things, but I always really admired how he was an agenda setter when there was no agenda. So on the Sean Campbell thing, Joe Brody can see that and say, okay, time to react and make something happen. But even on a stale Champions League Tuesday night, Manchester United have won 2-1 the late 90s, there's not much there. And he'll just do Bill, we need to, and he'll say, tonight's been a bad night for the game. And start talking about something innocuous enough that no one else is really that outraged by, and he'll make a big thing out of it, and he'll inject the thing with like intensity and emotion, and before you know it, it's been like a bumper 15 minutes, and he was just, so his baseline level was off the charts good. It was just always good. Yeah,
it is a TV show. Like, it's also meant to be entertaining, and I was always entertained with what he was coming out with. Like, because I'm not old enough to remember when he was probably in his punditry heyday, when like Jack Charlton was there, and like maybe what he was saying was much more kind of incisive or cutting against Jack Charlton. But just even, as you say, a Tuesday, Wednesday night Champions League matches, which ordinarily, or what you've watched the punditry now, isn't as interesting. And he just brought a lot to that.
Okay, we'll keep us moving. Dunphy?
That's a good one. I would like to
You need to stay quiet now.
Into my third.
Oh, really? Yeah. Who will you kick out? Go on.
This person I picked because he's the rare person that's kind of come into punditry with a huge name, but he's entertaining, he does his homework, and when he says something, it's still actually, you're like, oh, he said that, and it's Brian O'Driscoll. Like, a lot of guys come in with a massive like name from playing. I can think of a few GA stars who went to the Sunday game, to a very famous hurler and a very famous footballer in our time, and they haven't been great. O'Driscoll would be of a similar stature to those guys, but you can tell even the little clips he puts up on Instagram, he's breaking these things down in minute detail. So at least when he comes out with a strong opinions, which he still does, which is what you want, it's backed up by what he's watched, and he hasn't just coasted on his fame. I just find him interesting to listen to. Yeah. And he does still have the things like, Brian O'Driscoll actually said that. And like, not many people have that.
No, it's true.
He has that kind of, still got gravitas from looming so large in Irish rugby.
Super famous.
Yeah, like Johnny Sexton was a great player, but he's not even close to kind of the O'Driscoll level of kind of, fame. So I feel like he does set the agenda as well sometimes.
Yeah.
Obviously, he doesn't do Irish punditry, obviously off the ball, but not TV punditry. You'd love if he was on, for a big Six Nations game with you guys on Virgin or for the Autumn Test, because I feel like it would add another layer to that. So he was my second person just when I was having to think about it. I think he's done a good job of getting into punditry and actually doing the work.
Yeah. Number 3.
Again, this is like I picked like the 3 most obvious ones possible, which maybe is a good antidote to what we had earlier from Conor. I went with Gary Neville, like as in
100%.
No, what 100%?
He's him or Dunphy, they're joint first name on the team sheet.
Neville's nowhere near Dunphy.
Like again, like I just enjoy like listening to him and Jamie Carragher, and I 100% take the point. They've become, talk about mega, they're extremely famous guys now, and like you can even see when they cut to the gantry camera and they're having the little jabs at each other. But he's still a very good pundit, and he's phenomenal. Unbelievably engaging.
I think he's so compromised.
He's phenomenal.
As a former manager, he's so afraid now of critiquing managers, never mind criticising them, actually just analysing what they're doing.
Do you think?
He's so compromised with the United thing. Like every
but he's very critical of United.
No, he's not. He's critical of the upstairs United, a faceless United that nobody knows about. He won't take on players. He won't take on the manager ever. Like Neville backed Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to the hilt.
He never caused him to be sacked, but recent memory, he spent the last year, because I listen to his podcast every Sunday after the Super Sunday match on Sky, and he's like, we've no style of play, players aren't trying, like this is just a mess, this can't continue. I feel he's been calling it.
I just think Neville has really gone downhill after, like, it was definitely great. It was, and I love I love this whole media mogul thing that he's transforming into now as well. Like I watch the overlap every week, but I just think as a pundit, he's definitely not as strong as he once was.
I don't disagree with maybe his overall content. I just mean I'm kind of judging him from the totality of what he's brought to punditry, and him and Carragher in there. He's just such a compelling person to watch speak, I think. I just think he's an unbelievable communicator, and himself and Carragher have that dynamic. And I take, some of your points, maybe his criticism. Like, obviously, he's unbelievably compromised by United as Carragher is of Liverpool. Like, they've really thrown the objectivity piece, away. But I kind of like it. Once you kind of know that going into it, I feel like I can still glean things from what he's saying about.
Yeah, I still think he's criticising United. Genuinely, he is.
Oh, I think he's so soft on United. Like he's criticising the players' lack of effort. Usually, he's criticising the players' lack of running.
Honestly, Connie, he was calling out the lack of style of play like so often under Ten Hag. Like genuinely,
like Neville will point out all these substandard United players that they've brought in, and he will talk about how they've had all these different managers now, and it shows that it's not the players, not the manager, it's the owners. But the managers that he's talking about is a group of a handful of very bang average managers. It's like, let's see them with somebody good to see what they can actually do. I just feel like he really is just too... He's too afraid and too wary of what he's going to say. I think he's like that with England as well. I think he has his allies and he's afraid to sort of take them on. And
jeez, I think that's very harsh.
Yeah, and I think he's overexposed as well. I mean, if it came down to a choice between Neville and
Wayne Mardle,
like there's no...
Yeah, I think you just won the argument for me.
I would have gone with Mardle had you not already taken him. You kind of robbed that from me.
It's a way to take the low-hanging fruit. Okay. We're basically out of time. Do you want to do this? Do you want to put your neck on the line here?
I was wondering what you were looking up. Yeah, see how many I can get. I can probably only get 5.
Sorry, I'm having to Google Premier League clubs. All right, let's see. So, I mean, this has to be snappy. We want quick yeses and quick passes. I'm going to start at the top of the table, so hopefully you get a bit of...
She'll get the first few.
Bit of momentum.
Do I need first names as well?
No. I just want to see where you're at. Okay, here we go. Liverpool.
Slot.
Man City.
Guardiola.
Chelsea.
Maresca.
Arsenal.
Arteta.
Nottingham Forest.
Nuno.
Brighton.
Hulzer.
The young lad.
Hulzer.
Yeah, I'll take it. Fulham.
Silva.
Newcastle.
Eddie Howe.
Aston Villa.
Emery.
Tottenham.
Ange.
Brentford.
Thomas Frank.
Bournemouth.
Iriola.
Yeah, I give it to you. Man United.
Man United. Amorim.
West Ham.
Lopetegui.
Yeah. Leicester.
Steve Cooper.
Everton.
Dyche.
Ipswich.
Kieran McKenna.
Crystal Palace.
Oliver Glasner.
Oh, well done.
The boy done good.
Wolves.
Gary O'Neill.
Yeah. Southampton.
Russell Martin.
Oh, he made it look easy.
Very good. Yeah.
No problem. Do you know, as I was going through it, I was like, it's not that hard.
It's actually not that hard, yeah. I was
I was waiting for the tricky one.
I really think we should cut this out. I thought it would be like a lot more my crowning moment. But
there wasn't much tension.
There wasn't.
Yeah. Sean Dyche was the only one you struggled on.
Yeah, I was like, to be honest, when you said Arsenal, I was like, I couldn't picture the name for like a second. I was like,
with Brighton, I just see him as the kid still.
Yeah.
What's his name again?
Hulzer, isn't it?
Hulzer. Yeah. Okay. We're out of here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Will, thank you.
Thank you, Joe.